Haz ACCUSE Meg as he suffered biggest disgrace for wearing fake military uniform to Queen's Vigil. Prince Harry was broken after the Queen's initials were eliminated from the uniform he wore whilst at the Queen's coffin vigil. Duke consider putting on a mourning suit to avoid disgrace, whereas Prince Andrew became allowed to put on the garments. After Prince Andrew became allowed to preserve the royal cipher, Prince Harry recalled the Queen's initials, as he watched over the coffin. Was reportedly devastated by the elimination of her initials on his uniform from his shoulder. The Duke of Sussex, 38, reportedly selected to wear military uniform to keep away from embarrassment as the King's 8 grandchildren held a solemn guard of honor at Westminster Hall closing night. William and Harry in uniform stood on both sides of their grandmother's coffin. Cousins Zara Tyndall and Peter Phillips, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, Lady Louise Windsor and her brother Viscount Severn attended. Harry, who has seen frontline movement on deployments to Afghanistan, became banned from uniform earlier this week due to the fact he's now no longer a current member of the royal family. King Charles allowed him to put on the uniform at some point of his vigil on the Palace of Westminster. Is known to have been found devastated. The initials have not been removed from Prince William's uniform. Unsurprisingly, Harry's desperation placed his initials at the Vice Admiral's uniform, whilst the Queen's children held a Friday nighttime vigil. Leaving behind, the focus is closely on Prince Andrew, who's now no longer a lively member of the royal family. The Duke of Sussex used to put on a siffer as he became the Queen's private lieutenant. However, it became one of the positions he resigned from whilst he retired from royal responsibilities and moved to California. The initials are historically worn only by the monarch's servants, so the shortage of ciphers is assumed to be because of the dress code and not outright disrespect for the prince. In desperation, Harry should have idea of setting on his mourning suit whilst he left the house so as not to embarrass himself the night before. A buddy instructed the newspaper. The removal of his grandmother's initials seems to have been very intentional. After the Queen's death, Prince Elizabeth stood aspect by side and walked in the back of her coffin, which became moved to the Palace of Westminster. I am hoping for a reconciliation with you. It became an emotional moment, like walking in the back of the coffin of her mother, Princess Diana, at her funeral in 1997. Street. Windsor Castle on Saturday. However, a supply near the brothers stated there was no large settlement so far. They obtained the Queen's coffin at Buckingham Palace this week in order that they join different contributors of the royal family for dinner at Buckingham Palace. But regardless of their domestic proximity to Windsor, conversations among them take region via assistance in preference to direct contact. I had the possibility to satisfy William at the Manor Domestic after the Prince of Wales picked up his 3 children from school. At first the brothers handed every different, then stopped, became around, closed the window and chatted. However, even as William knows the cost of his dating together along with his brother, he's surprisingly focused on honoring the Queen. Last nighttime, Harry watched his brother force the Queen's grandchildren to the Queen's